Sean Diddy Combs just scored what his legal team is calling a major victory. Headlines are celebrating, his lawyers are claiming they've prevailed, and the internet is starting to move on. But don't be fooled, because when you look past the surface, this so-called win is far from the full story. Behind closed doors, a deeply disturbing lawsuit is still moving forward, one that accuses Diddy of behavior so dark, so damaging, it left people stunned. And now, as more legal pressure builds around him, one thing is clear: this case isn't over, and the truth might just be worse than anyone expected. On July 8, 2025, a New York State Supreme Court judge handed Diddy a partial legal win in one of the many civil cases he's facing. The ruling came from Justice Leslie Stroh, who agreed to dismiss certain parts of a lawsuit filed by a woman named April Lamprey, specifically any claims tied to incidents that allegedly happened before December 19, 2000. Why that date? Because that's when the Gender-Motivated Violence Act went into effect in New York City. So under the law, anything that supposedly happened before that doesn't qualify under this particular civil statute. Diddy's lawyers jumped on that technicality and the judge agreed. But here's what most people missed. While this ruling cuts out some of the timeline, it doesn't dismiss the entire case. The most serious part in alleged assault in late 2000 or early 2000 is still very much alive. And it's that claim that could bring Diddy right back into court. April Lamprey wasn't just another name in a long list of accusers. Her lawsuit laid out a series of deeply disturbing claims against Diddy, claims that span from the mid-1990s to the early 2000s. According to her, what happened wasn't a one-time incident, it was a pattern. She says it started in 1995, when she alleges Diddy raped her. Then again in 1996, another sexual assault. In 1998, things escalated even further. Lamprey claims Diddy coerced her into a disturbing sexual encounter involving his then-girlfriend Kim Porter, where drugs and pressure turned the situation into something she says she never consented to. But it didn't end there. She says the final assault happened either at the end of 2000 or the beginning of 2000, in her own apartment. That's the one claim that survived the judge's ruling, and that one claim, it could be enough to expose everything. These aren't vague accusations. Lamprey provided names, dates, locations. She even claimed she was working at Arista Records, one of Diddy's music labels, at the time, tying her allegations directly into his inner circle. And yet, after all that, the court only ruled that the earliest claims were too old to pursue. Under the specific law, not that they didn't happen, not that they weren't horrifying, just that they happened before a specific legal cutoff. Diddy's lawyers didn't waste a second celebrating. They immediately framed the judge's ruling as proof that the entire lawsuit was baseless. In their own words, Lamprey filed this case more than 20 years after the end of her romantic relationship with Mr. Combs, and every claim, they said, was deficient on its face and must be dismissed. They leaned hard on the technicalities, timing, statute language, procedural limits, and once the court struck down the pre-2000 claims, Diddy's team issued a confident statement. They largely prevailed. But here's what they didn't say: the judge didn't rule on whether Lamprey was telling the truth. The court didn't say the assaults didn't happen. The ruling wasn't about innocence, it was about legal deadlines. And while the lawyers painted it as a win, critics say it's just a clever spin job, a distraction from the one disturbing claim that still stands, and could bring even more details to light once depositions begin. Despite all the celebration from Diddy's legal team, one thing is crystal clear: this fight is far from over. The most serious claim in April Lamprey's lawsuit, the one tied to the Gender-Motivated Violence Act, is still alive. That claim stems from the alleged assault in late 2000 or early 2001, and it falls within the legal window, which means, legally speaking, this is where things get serious. Lamprey's attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, isn't backing down. In fact, right after the ruling, he fired back publicly. It's full steam ahead. Playtime is over. He announced that they'll be deposing Diddy in the next 2 months and will begin discovery almost immediately. That means sworn testimony, evidence exchanges, and potentially explosive new information being forced into the spotlight. For Diddy, this isn't just a lingering lawsuit, it's a loaded trap. If Lamprey's lawyers can dig deep enough during discovery, this case could unlock a chain reaction. And not just for this one plaintiff. So here's the truth. While Diddy's team is calling this a legal win, it's nowhere near it doesn't erase the darkest parts of this case. The court didn't throw out the lawsuit. It only trimmed down when the alleged assaults could be considered under the law. The most disturbing accusation, the final one, is still moving forward. And that's the one that could do real damage. This wasn't a judge saying, he's innocent. It was a judge saying, these specific claims are too old. That's a legal technicality, not a vindication. And the remaining claim, it's serious. It's backed by names, timelines, and one woman who says she's ready to testify and force Diddy to face questions under oath. Even worse for Diddy, this case could set a precedent. If new evidence comes out during discovery, it might open the door for other women to step forward or strengthen their own lawsuits. Because remember, Lampros is just one of over 70 women who have filed claims or spoken out. This wasn't the end. It was just the opening move in a much bigger legal war. This civil case isn't happening in a vacuum. It's unfolding just days after a bombshell moment in Diddy's criminal trial. On July 2, 2025, Diddy was found guilty in federal court of 2 serious charges: transportation to engage in prostitution. He was acquitted on the racketeering and sex trafficking counts, which made headlines. But make no mistake, the charges he was convicted of still carry serious weight. Prosecutors warned the judge that Combs was a flight risk and had a documented history of violence. The court agreed. Bail denied. He's been behind bars since the verdict, and he's now awaiting sentencing, which is scheduled for October 3rd. And while his legal team celebrated dodging the RICO and trafficking charges, the reality is grim. Diddy could still face up to 20 years in prison, depending on how the court rules. Even the most optimistic estimates say he'll serve at least 2 to 5 years. Now, imagine what happens if damaging new information comes out in the Lampros civil case while he's already locked up. Not only would that fuel public pressure, it could even impact his sentencing or spark new investigations entirely. This isn't 2 separate legal battles, it's one massive storm, closing in from all sides. So what's next for Diddy? In the civil case, Lampros' team is moving fast. They've already announced plans to depose Diddy within 2 months, meaning he'll be questioned under oath camera about the most personal and disturbing details of the allegations. They're also launching discovery, which could uncover emails, texts, or witnesses that haven't been seen or heard before. And if any of that evidence overlaps with the 70-plus other claims Diddy's facing, this could blow the whole situation wide open. Meanwhile, on the criminal side, all eyes are on October 3rd. When Diddy is sentenced for the 2 felony charges he was convicted of, will he get a light sentence and try to rebuild his reputation? Or will the court make an example out of him, sending a message to the rest of the industry? And then there's the wild card. The public, fans, critics, and media are watching closely. One more leak, one more viral headline, one more Diddy's so-called comeback might never happen. This isn't a story that's cooling off, it's just getting started. Diddy's team may be popping champagne over a technical win, but in the real world, nothing is resolved. One of the most serious claims is still alive. His sentencing is just months away, and the legal heat, it's only rising. What's playing out isn't just a courtroom drama, it's the unraveling of one of the most powerful names in music. And no matter how many headlines scream victory, the truth behind those courtroom walls tells a much darker story. Because in the end, this isn't about one case or one woman. It's about a pattern, a legacy, and the walls are starting to close in. And if you think this case is wild, wait until you hear what just came out in the lawsuit. Diddy, trying to keep out of the public eye,